He was a rising star, a young man on the cusp of everything he ever wanted. But he had a secret, a lie he told his beloved grandma every day. He told her he was at work, building a future for them both. The truth? He was gambling away their last few rupees, chasing a dream that was slipping through his fingers. Then, one day, he found her on the street, frail and lost, and his world came crashing down. You won't believe the heartbreaking truth he uncovered, and the devastating lesson he learned about the true cost of his lies. In the bustling, sun-baked heart of Bahawalpur, a city rich with history and the vibrant hues of everyday life, lived a young man named Bilal. At 22, he was a whirlwind of ambition and dreams, a quick-witted, charming, and undeniably intelligent young man who, to the casual observer, was destined for greatness. He lived with his grandmother, a frail, elderly woman named Nusrat, whose hands were gnarled with age but whose eyes held the wisdom of 1,000 years. She was the anchor of his life, the last remaining link to a past that had been fraught with hardship and loss. His parents had passed away when he was a child, leaving him to be raised by his grandmother, a woman who had poured every ounce of her love and strength into him. Their small, two-room house, nestled in a labyrinth of narrow, winding streets, was a sanctuary, a place filled with the scent of jasmine and the quiet hum of his grandmother's prayers. Bilal was her everything. He was her hope, her future, her reason for living. She had sacrificed everything for him, working tirelessly, mending clothes for her neighbors, her fingers a blur of motion, just to put food on the table and send him to school. She believed in him with an unwavering faith, a faith that was as vast and boundless as the desert that surrounded their city. She believed he would make something of himself, that he would honor the memory of his parents, that he would rise above their humble circumstances. And Bilal, in his own way, loved her fiercely. He would sit by her side for hours, listening to her stories of a bygone era, of a Bahawalpur that was both familiar and utterly alien. He would bring her tea, massage her aching feet, and promise her, with all the sincerity of his young heart, that one day, he would give her a life of comfort, a life free from worry. But Bilal had a secret, a dark, insidious secret that he kept hidden beneath a veneer of charm and ambition. He was a gambler. Not a casual gambler, but a compulsive one, a man who chased the elusive thrill of the win with a reckless abandon. He would spend hours at the local betting dens, his eyes fixed on the cards, his heart pounding in his chest, convinced that the next hand, the next roll of the dice, would be the one that changed everything. He was always just one win away from greatness, just one lucky break away from turning their fortunes around. He saw it not as a vice, but as a shortcut, a quicker, more exciting path to the future he had promised his grandmother. He believed he was destined for it. He believed he was smarter than the system. He believed he could beat the odds. Every morning, he would kiss his grandmother's forehead, his voice filled with a feigned cheerfulness. "I'm off to work, Nanny John," he would say, using the affectionate term for grandmother. "I'll be home before sunset. Don't worry about a thing." He would then walk to the other side of town, not to an office or a job site, but to the smoky, dimly lit back rooms of the betting dens, places where dreams went to die. He told her he was working at a textile factory, a respectable job that would provide a steady income. He painted a vivid picture of his days, of the whirring machinery, the bustling camaraderie of his colleagues, the quiet satisfaction of honest work. He would come home exhausted, not from labor, but from the emotional roller coaster of winning and losing, of the adrenaline highs and the crushing lows. He would spin elaborate tales of his day, of the challenges he faced, of the triumphs he achieved, all to keep the lie alive, all to protect his grandmother from the truth. Nusrat, with her failing eyesight and her unshakable faith in her grandson, believed every word. She would listen to his stories with a quiet pride, her heart swelling with love. She would cook his favorite meals, mend his clothes, and offer him words of encouragement, her voice a soft, comforting balm. She never questioned him, never doubted him. She trusted him implicitly. He was her grandson, her blood, her future. How could he possibly lie to her? One sweltering afternoon, the kind of afternoon where the air hung heavy and thick, a sense of unease settled in Bilal's stomach. He had had a terrible losing streak, a string of bad luck that had left him almost penniless. He had gambled away his grandmother's last few rupees, money that was meant for their food, for their rent, for their very survival. He felt a cold dread creep up his spine. He knew he had to win it back. He had to. He couldn't go home without it. He couldn't face her. He knew the debt collector would be coming, a hulking, silent man whose presence alone was a threat. He went to the most notorious betting den in Bahawalpur, a place known for its high stakes and its ruthless players. He sat down at a card table, his hands trembling, his heart pounding. He placed his last few rupees on the table, a desperate, final gamble. He lost. The cards, cold and unforgiving, sealed his fate. He stood up, a sense of profound despair washing over him. He was not a winner. He was a loser. And he had lost everything. He was not just broke, he was a broken man. He walked out of the betting den, the smoky, stifling air replaced by the oppressive heat of the street. He walked aimlessly, his mind a blur of shame and regret. He walked past familiar shops, past familiar faces, but he saw nothing, felt nothing, but the crushing weight of his failure. He was a liar, a gambler, a cheat, and he had just destroyed his grandmother's life. He felt a profound sense of self-loathing, a deep, aching pain that was far worse than any physical wound. As he walked down a crowded street, a street filled with the usual cacophony of vendors, rickshaws, and hawkers, he saw a small, frail figure huddled against a wall. His heart stopped. He squinted, his eyes trying to make sense of the scene. The figure was old, her clothes tattered, her head covered in a faded scarf. She was holding out a small, trembling hand, a silent plea for alms. His blood ran cold. He knew that scarf. He knew that posture. He knew that face. It was his grandmother. He ran to her, his legs a blur of motion, his heart pounding in his chest like a frantic drum. "Nanny John," he cried, his voice a raw, desperate gasp. "Nanny John, what are you doing here? What happened?" Nusrat looked up, her eyes cloudy with age and confusion. She didn't recognize him at first. She was lost, disoriented, a frail, confused old woman in a world that had suddenly become too big, too loud, too overwhelming. "Bilal," she whispered, her voice a thin, reedy sound. "Bilal, my son? I don't know. I went to the market, and I got lost. I don't know where I am." Bilal fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He looked at her, his beloved grandmother, a woman who had given him everything, and he saw the direct result of his lies, his selfishness, his addiction. He saw the ultimate cost of his deception. He saw the woman he had promised to protect, now begging on the street, lost and alone. He felt a pain so profound, so devastating, that it felt like his heart was being ripped from his chest. He helped her up, his hands trembling. He held her close, burying his face in her worn clothes, breathing in the familiar scent of jasmine and old age. "Nanny John," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I lied to you. I didn't go to work. I gambled away all our money. The landlord came. He threw us out. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Nusrat, frail and confused, simply patted his head, her hand a warm, comforting presence. "It's all right, my son," she said, her voice filled with a profound, unyielding love. "It's all right. We'll be all right. Allah will guide us. He always does." Her words, simple and profound, were a sharp, painful contrast to his own guilt and shame. Bilal took her back to their house, or what was left of it. The door was open, the lock broken, and their few belongings were scattered on the street, discarded like trash. Their home, their sanctuary, was gone. It was a stark, brutal testament to the destructive power of his addiction, to the devastating consequences of his lies. He stood there, surrounded by the ruins of his life, and he felt a profound, aching despair. He had destroyed everything. He had destroyed his grandmother's life. He had destroyed his own. But in that moment of profound despair, a small, defiant spark flickered within him. He looked at his grandmother, her face serene even in the midst of their tragedy, and he knew he couldn't give up. He couldn't let his lies, his addiction, define him. He had to fight. He had to change. He had to redeem himself. He had to be the man she believed him to be. He had to be her hero again. He went to a local mosque, his heart heavy with shame and regret. He confessed his sins to the imam, a kind, wise old man who listened with a patient, non-judgmental ear. The imam listened to his story, to his confession, to his desperate plea for help. He looked at Bilal, his eyes filled with compassion, and he said, "My son, Allah forgives those who seek forgiveness. The path to redemption is not easy, but it is always open. You have made mistakes, but you have also learned a valuable lesson. Now, you must choose to walk the path of truth, the path of honesty, the path of hard work. You must choose to be the man Allah intended you to be." Bilal left the mosque with a renewed sense of purpose, a quiet determination that had been missing from his life. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He knew he had a long, difficult road ahead of him. But he also knew he wasn't alone. He had his grandmother's love. He had Allah's guidance. And he had a profound, unyielding desire to redeem himself, to be worthy of the love and trust that had been so carelessly given and so carelessly squandered. He found a job as a laborer at a construction site, a grueling, back-breaking job that paid very little. But he worked with a fierce, unyielding determination, his hands calloused, his body aching, his mind focused on one thing, rebuilding his life, rebuilding his grandmother's life. He saved every single rupee, denying himself even the smallest luxuries. He found a small, single room for them to rent, a humble dwelling that was clean and safe. He brought his grandmother food, he bought her new clothes, he made sure she was comfortable. He would sit by her side every evening, reading to her from the Quran, talking to her about his day, telling her the truth, every single, painful truth. Nusrat, with her unwavering faith, listened to his confessions, her hand gently stroking his hair. She never judged him, never condemned him. She simply loved him. She understood that he was a human being, capable of making mistakes, but also capable of redemption. She saw the change in him, the quiet dignity that had replaced his arrogance, the profound humility that had replaced his selfishness. She saw the man she had always believed him to be, the man her son had always been meant to be. Years passed. Bilal continued to work tirelessly, his reputation for honesty and hard work spreading throughout the construction site. He was promoted, given more responsibility, and eventually, he became a foreman, a respected leader who was admired by his colleagues. He saved enough money to buy a small piece of land, and he built a new house for his grandmother, a house that was bigger, brighter, and more comfortable than their old one. He built it with his own hands, every brick, every nail, a testament to his love, his redemption, his unwavering commitment to her. Nusrat lived to see him become a successful, respected man. She lived to see him build a new life for them both, a life filled with dignity, with comfort, with peace. She would sit on the porch of their new house, watching the sunset, her hand in his, a quiet, serene smile on her face. "You did it, my son," she would say, her voice a soft, gentle whisper. "You did it. You made me proud. Your father would have been proud." Bilal would simply hold her hand, tears streaming down his face, his heart overflowing with a gratitude that words could never express. He had come full circle. He had been a liar, a gambler, a cheat, and he had found redemption in the quiet, profound love of his grandmother, and in the harsh, unforgiving lessons of the street. He had learned that true wealth was not measured in rupees, but in honesty, in hard work, in the unwavering love of family. He never gambled again. He never lied again. He became a man of integrity, a man of honor, a man who understood the true cost of his mistakes, and the priceless value of his redemption. He became a beacon of hope in his community, a living testament to the power of change, the power of forgiveness, and the power of a grandmother's unwavering love. He became a husband, a father, a leader, and a philanthropist, always remembering the day he found his grandmother on the street, and the harsh lesson that had changed his life forever. This story is a powerful reminder that the truth always comes out. It's a reminder that lies can destroy lives, but redemption is always possible. It's a reminder that true wealth isn't measured in money, but in honesty, in hard work, and in the unwavering love of family. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to be reminded of the power of forgiveness. Like and subscribe for more stories that will change your perspective and remind you that sometimes, the most valuable lessons are the ones you learn the hard way.